We're going to start, though, with the breaking news we've been following. All 5 Memphis officers fired for their involvement in the arrest of Tyre Nichols have turned themselves in and are facing now some criminal charges.
And this comes as authorities in the city are preparing for the release of body cam footage showing Nichols' arrest. The 29-year-old died just 3 days after a traffic stop. Police pulled him over for what they said was reckless driving, but it escalated into a violent altercation. Now, we have the mugshots of the 5 former Memphis police officers. All of them have been charged with murder.
CBS News correspondent Elise Preston knows Memphis well. She is there covering this story for us.
Elise, we want to kind of get more from you from the new information that's fresh right now. There are reports that former Memphis police officer Emmett Martin III has been indicted in this case. What can you tell us about him and any other potential charges for the 5 involved?
Well, we have been seeing these charges, these indictments pop up on the court records right now. We can tell you that at least one of the officers, former officers, Demetrius Haley, he is charged with second-degree murder. The other charges that are popping up for former officer Haley: aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. Keep in mind, Errol, that these charges are coming in as we speak. So we're working to confirm exactly what the 5 officers are charged with, if they are facing the same charges. But I can tell you at least one of them is facing second-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated assault, official misconduct, and official oppression, Errol.
And Elise, how is the community starting to respond to these charges?
Well, I can tell you that this has just happened in the last about 10 minutes or so is when these notices started to come. So we haven't seen too much of anything right now. We're in front of the Shelby County Criminal Justice Complex here. 201 Poplar is the address. Everyone knows it very well here in Memphis. I haven't seen too many people showing up outside of media just kind of waiting around to see what's going to happen today. And there was this angst. There was anticipation that some charges might come because the Memphis police chief, she posted on Twitter a video statement late last night around 10:30 Central Time. And it was the first time that we had actually heard from the Memphis police chief. She said that what happened was inhumane. She said what she saw was heinous, and she warned people that they were going to see some video in the coming days that would probably not sit right with them, that it was just a very violent incident that occurred, and that was captured on video.
And there are some things, as you spoke with us earlier about, that seem different when it comes to police video of violent encounters and death. There in Memphis specifically, you mentioned the new district attorney who appears to be taking a different tack than we've seen from others in making decisive action before video is even released. Give us some more of that context to understand why this appears to be slightly different than cases we've seen previously, including the fact that the officers involved and the victim, they're all black men.
Yeah, this case is incredibly different. It is unprecedented here in Memphis as far as how people are responding. The district attorney that you mentioned, Steve Mulroy, he's been in office about 5 months, and he is a former federal civil rights attorney. He's a former Shelby County commissioner. He has been he's been very vocal in years past about police reform. And so one of his campaign promises was a justice review unit, and part of their responsibility would be to operate independently and investigate police misconduct situations. I asked him on camera a few days ago, is this unit involved in this case? He said absolutely. He said that he brought in 2 attorneys, civil rights attorneys, 2 attorneys to kind of review what was going on, and they were working independently. So they were only reporting to him. They weren't working with other people. So it was an independent investigation by the Justice Review Unit. And so that is what we're seeing come into play. I can also tell you that just a lot of people who typically would be mum in situations here in Memphis. They have been very vocal about what happened. And keep in mind, so many people have not even seen the tape. We've only heard about the tape. We have heard words describe it as violent, as heinous. The Memphis police chief, she called it inhumane. And attorney Ben Crump, who is representing the family, he said that it reminded him, unfortunately, of the 1991 beating of Rodney King by Los Angeles police.
Yeah, the police chief, also a black woman, really not standing on the side of her officers there, being very direct that this was inhumane and unacceptable.
Yeah. Elise, thank you. Now I want to bring in Kurt Burkhalter. He is a professor of the New York School of Law and director of the 21st Century Policing Project. I'm sure you were just able to hear Elise's report there. What jumps out at you about the charges we're seeing now and what we've seen from Memphis police over the past few days that seems in stark relief to other incidents that have been similar?
Good afternoon. So one thing that jumps out is the murder, too, the second-degree murder charge. Quite often we see police officers who are involved in the death of another. When they're charged with some form of reckless or criminally negligent homicide. It's very rare, except for extreme cases, to charge a police officer with murder because of the culpable mental state that's required to prove that crime. In this instance, what goes along with murder, too, is the prosecution will have to prove that the officer acted knowingly, meaning that he knew his actions would have a particular result and acted on those actions, in an attempt to achieve that result. So that's just under intent and premeditation. So that's something that's very interesting. Also, the police department's response here has been somewhat measured and an attempt to stay ahead of this. A lot of folks are curious why the video hasn't been released, what's taking so long. And I think the police department, prosecutors want to control the narrative, because what normally happens is when the video is released, what does the public, what do we all say? Well, my goodness, we can all see plainly that this is murder or it's some form of criminal homicide. Why hasn't an arrest been made? So here, there's an effort to stay ahead of this and prepare the public and being transparent and absolutely calling the video what it is, which I haven't seen, but calling the video heinous and so forth. So the response by the police department, by the local government there is very much an attempt to stay ahead of what is going on here and to be transparent with the public.
Professor Burkhalter, Errol mentioned you run the 21st Century Policing Project. Tell us what went so wrong with this traffic stop. It seems too frequently that we hear this same storyline. It was a traffic incident that ended up with someone dead. What needs to change to try and prevent this horrific type of escalation?
Well, it's a little difficult to answer that question without seeing the video and reading some of the reports. But my initial thought is one thing that strikes me is that this was reports are that these officers were members of a specialized unit. So it'll be interesting to find out, were they working together, all five of them, or did other officers respond? The reason why this is so important is the issue of supervision. We've seen over and over, and this is a phenomenon of small group psychology, that a pair of people or a single individual reacts very differently than when you put together 4 or 5 folks. There's a phenomenon of small group psychology that takes over. Folks feel a little bit more empowered. They take different actions than they might normally take if there was only one person or 2 officers. And that's why quite often when you put together 4 or 5 police officers, one should require some form of direct supervision. You just don't kind of send police officers out in their own devices. They're not a gang. This is the police department. So that's the first thing that jumps out at me, how these officers were supervised. And then further, folks talk about training. There are some things you can't train away. If you have a propensity for violence, you can't train it away. But however, certainly one has to look at how officers are trained and educated as to how folks are going to respond to their actions and initially what actions to take.
Quick question for you, Kirk, because you have expertise in this area. Have we seen a similar incident where white officers were disciplined so quickly before the release of questionable video?
Well, that is the elephant in the room here, of course. The victim was African American and the police officers are African American. And I think in this case, we've seen perhaps with the murder of George Floyd, I mean, you have to think of some extreme incidents. However, I think when we have seen an incident this extreme with regards to the violence, we have seen the alleged violence, once again, not having seen the video, but we've seen the authorities react quite quickly. I think it's important for the authorities to react quickly, whether the police officers are black or white. This incident is unfortunately about violence. Now, of course, it could be racially motivated. There's no rule that says one cannot be motivated by race just because they are of the same race of their victim. However, this is about violence. It's about possibly misconduct, violation of civil rights, and so forth. But it'll be interesting to see how that question plays out.
Absolutely fascinating, especially your point about small group psychology. All of this brings to mind the responsibility of individual officers to say stop when something is wrong. Professor Kurt Burkhalter, thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.